Okay. Hello. And welcome everybody. It's good to be back together. Feels like it's been a few weeks since I've been here. I can see Matthew's on there. I think people are trying to connect up. Good morning to you. Let's get started. We've got a ripper today, or as Graham would call it, a cracker. He was trying to explain to me his sermon and it didn't make sense, which means it's got to be good. All right, now. So let's start. Let's centre ourselves. My eyes are not haughty, and my heart isn't proud. I do not concern myself with things too great and marvellous for me. Instead, I have quieted and calmed my soul, like a weaned child that knows that all is well when Mama is in view. Mighty God, for the wisdom of the child we now ask. Amen. We acknowledge that we gather. We are coming to you from the chapel at Bondi Beach, so we're on the land of the Bidjigal and Gadigal. I normally do the Gadigal, but this is the Bidjigal, Birigal and Gadigal people here, and we acknowledge elders past and present and any people of Aboriginal descent who might be joining us today. We just ask that we will, we acknowledge you in the spirit that we want to walk alongside each other through this time. So we've got some great songs, and who have we got today helping us? Emma and Graham Anson. Are you coming to help us sing? Wonderful. Let's get cracking. All right. Sing in a loud voice from home. Oh, we got someone live streaming. All right.
I think we're going to start with Wonderful World. Yep.
I see trees of green, red roses too. I see them bloom for me and you, and I think to myself.
Or you can just do it here in a big voice.
Oh, beautiful. Our reading today comes from Matthew. He who receives you receives me, and he who receives me receives the one who sent me. Anyone who receives a prophet because he is a prophet will receive a prophet's reward, and anyone who receives a righteous man because he is a righteous man will receive a righteous man's reward. And if anyone gives a cup of cold water to one of these little ones because he is my disciple, I tell you the truth, he will certainly not lose his reward.
Before we get G up, I just want to check in with you all, see how you're doing. Also, just want to acknowledge Tim. He's been here this morning, and as he has been every week since we've been going live through this. My head's cut off. Thanks, Tim. We'll just do that if that's all right. Is it? Thanks, Tim. Tim's 1.5 meters away right now.
Mm-hmm.
He's, it wouldn't have happened without Tim, and he's been here setting up diligently and getting all the technology to the point where it is now. So everyone from home, I can see your beautiful messages coming through. And just before Graham starts, I just want to encourage you to keep reaching out, to keep connecting. We're in the long haul of this now, and it's really starting to take a toll on us all too. So yeah, just thank you, Tim.
No, it's my pleasure. My pleasure.
What a legend this guy is. Bless him. And thank you, everyone at home. And till we see each other again, here we go. Graham, over to you.
All right, I've got a cracker for you, but you're going to have to come in close. Drink your coffee, whatever it is you do, I need you to be awake. I'm going to try and keep faith with our little 8-minute rule, but if I break it, what are you going to do? Sack me. Did you know every church, every mainline church uses the same lectionary? And so this reading we've just had is the same reading that be read in most Catholic churches and all around the place. So today's text is very strong on receiving a reward. And so I expect congregations all across the world will be just about glazing over right now. Because we don't really catch the language of reward. Because we've lived in a culture that for quite a long time has found its greatest wisdom in saying, well, tomorrow's not here, yesterday's gone, live in the moment. And because that's our prevailing wisdom, we have sleepwalked into an ocean of moral custard, which is sweet but very difficult to swim through and very difficult to walk through. So I want to try and just get us there with a simple phrase, and that is to say that the reward is in the act. Are you going to sleep? The reward's in the act. First, let's start with the word act. I want to remind you, because this is countercultural, and I've said it before, but you need reminding, and that is God is pure act. And in a sense, you only know God by participating in God. You don't know God because you've accumulated a body of knowledge. You don't know God because you went to some seminary and got a degree. In fact, seminaries are places where faith goes to die. Once you say you know God, it's all over. You participate in God. When you make love to your lover, you participate in the very life of God. When you nurture a friendship, you participate in the life of God. When you enjoy a hobby, you participate in the life of God. Have you got it? So to live is an act. Beware of nouns that masquerade presenting activities as if they were things. Do you need to say that again? Look out for nouns, because they often try and persuade us to think that things that are fundamentally activities are things that can be possessed and looked upon and mastered. Nouns such as love. Well, love is no thing. Love is an activity. And if there is no activity going on, there's no love, I promise you. Marriage is not a thing. When somebody puts a ring on someone's finger and says, now you are my thing, that marks the end, not the beginning. Look out for nouns. So we know God because we participate in God. We can't say much about him, but we can say a lot to him. The reward is in the act. So, let me go fast. I'm trying to keep to 8 minutes because I've given Andrew such a terrible time about sticking to 8 minutes. But I feel really guilty if I break the 8-minute mark. So,
Keep going.
all right. First thing then is, I want to lampoon our current wisdom that tomorrow's not here yet. Yesterday's gone, live in the moment. I want to kill that if I can. Because all experience is in the past. All experience is in the past. Anyone who wants to find meaning through experiencing lots of things, never actually get into the now. If I meet you and you meet me, I'm in awe of the wonder of who you are. And by the way, doesn't it make sense that the hardest people to meet in the world are the ones you know the best? Why? because your act of knowing shuts off the possibility of the new that's coming at you towards the future. I've been married to the same girl for 50 years. And I just naturally fall into a habit of this is who she is and blah, blah, because I know her. And when I meet her, it's usually a surprise, sometimes a rude surprise. Because I would like her to be predictable according to what I know. But she's no thing. And every now and then she says to me, I'm here, you know. All experience is in the past. If I meet you and you meet me and I am in awe of being in the presence of your wondrous self, if you ask me in that moment, how do you feel? The answer will be, I don't know. By the time I know how I feel about meeting you, the meeting's over. Do you get that? Do you get it? For this generation that is so absorbed in the experience, we're like people who are trying to catch waves in the sandhills. We're trying to understand while we live in the orchestra pit. Your experience is always after the event. Even if you're talking about fast experience, like if I stick a needle in your arm and you feel pain and you flinch, the needle's already in your arm. Experience follows the event. So many ministers talk about the experience of God, and in the end, God disappears. How far are we towards 8 minutes? You can't have a now that's divorced from the future. You can't do it. Every one of your acts, every act that you make, every little act that you make is towards some future thing. In a sense, you could say every moment there is a future cause. Why do you boil the kettle? To have a cup of coffee. Try and trick me and come up with something that you can do that has no future aspect to it. Or like I might decide to rest and do nothing yesterday. I'm just going to do nothing. Well, that's because you need to feel better. You need a rest. Every act has a future aspect to it. Every person has a future before them. Every person has a destiny. I often think the reason why so many of our relationships are not transformative are because we just see what's there. But every person is a promise on the way to their destiny. And in a way, you could build an ethical system from there, saying that you will be unethical whenever you stand in the way of somebody's future, because they're on their way to their destiny. And that's why a crime against children is the most despicable of all evils. But everybody has a future. Imagine if every person you met, you started to see them not just as they are, but in terms of their destiny, what they're called to. Imagine that. I'm trying to shortcut this a little. What that means is, in everything you do, there is a promise. You make a promise in every act that you make. That's why it's impossible when people say, oh, it was just an affair, it was just sex. No, you make a promise. In what you do, there is a promise in every act that you do. And maybe your promise is, I'll just use you as a toilet. Maybe that's your promise. But there's a promise. There's a promise. You want to think about that? There is no such thing as the now that is unhinged from the future. and really we are each of us on our way to our destiny or to our fate. Hey, I want to finish by reading a poem, but I hate poems and I hate poets. Because most poets, because they're people of our age, our culture, and they really think that if they shove their heads up their bums and share with us the view, that we'll all be enriched somehow. And so most poems are really horrid things. But there is the odd exception. And I want to read an exception, and then the Cafe of Salvation is going to take us on an outro. I only learned that word yesterday, an outro. All my life I've been making do with conclusion, finish, but this is an outro. Here's an extraordinary poem by David White, and I just want to give you the last few lines. Put down the weight of your aloneness and ease into the conversation. The kettle is singing even as it pours you a drink. The cooking pots have left their arrogant aloofness and seen the good in you at last. All the birds and creatures of the world are unutterably themselves. Everything is waiting for you. Everything is waiting for you. Your reward is in the act. Thank you to the Cafe of Salvation, who we love dearly, who will sing the blessing, sing the outro. Thanks for being with us today. See you next week.
As we leave this place, take the blessings of the Lord with you. As we leave this place, depart to serve. Take His word, share His word. He will lead you, He will guide you all the way. As we leave this place, as we